Hey guys, how's it going? It's Logan with Hydra 572. Got a knife to review for you today. If you haven't seen it yet, I made a video with this knife called How We Make a Review. I outlined the process that we go through before we review a knife. Go ahead and watch that. That'll give you some insight into the information that's going into this review and how we do things around here in general. But I'll go ahead and get started with the intended usage of this knife, which I feel is EDC, emergency tactical usage. They're marketing this knife to soldiers as an emergency tactical knife. And I think we'll find throughout the review that that is a relatively warranted claim. It's not going to be the best EDC usage type knife, but I think as a folding emergency tactical knife, it makes the best of a bad situation. But pricing, $46 blade play, $40 on eBay. The blade profile, well, I've talked about Tontos with serrations before, and I think it looks tactical. I like the tip on a Tonto grind, but I think the looking tactical is sort of outweighed by how it really restricts the amount of belly you can have. Got a really big knife here, and you only really have this 2-3 inch portion of usable belly. I don't really consider the serrations belly. I know a lot of people like serrations, but I think it interferes with more fine cutting if you have to cut fabric or paper or whatever. Even, not really cardboard, it helps with cardboard, as I think we saw in the cutting tests. But yeah, tip is good, feels strong and it's relatively acute. Belly, not enough for the size, I don't really think. The steel is AUS 4, which is a less common steel to the knife community. I found that the retention was decent. I definitely think it was below AUS 8. Maybe even a little below 8CR13, the knives that I've experienced, but it sharpens up fine. The sharpening, you know, the asymmetric grind that they've got on, moving into grind, it's sort of a pain in the ass. It's not a chisel grind per se. We've got a relatively steep grind on this side and a much more shallow grind on this side, as you guys can hopefully see. But yeah, so I just sort of treated it like it was a chisel grind and sharpening, so 3 swipes on one side, 1 on the other to knock the burr off, 5 swipes on one side. I tried both, they both seemed to work fine. So that's sort of a pain in the ass. The grind is stupid. I think asymmetric grinds are terrible. You can watch my asymmetric grinds video, I'll annotate it in here. But AUS 4 steel, beside the rest buckling, which we'll get into later, definitely not a bad steel, but we'll talk about that soon. Deployment, got the flipper / wave, made out of these Carson flippers that make up the full guard. So I've got it relatively tight right now, but there you go. You know, it's a decent flipper, and I think it's really cool that you can use the front one as a wave. And then you have the blade stop thumb studs. Those are blade stops, not thumb studs, but you can use them as thumb studs for deployment. Like I said, I just tightened it up, so it's pretty tight. And I can't do it around the camera, but they do work. And you can get a rotational opening with momentum. You know, that's enough opening methods for me. I like the flipper wave. Now getting onto the lock, it's decent. We have a jimped liner and the auto locks system, which a lot of people bitch about and I don't understand. It was relatively easy for me to get used to. It's just an extra step that you add in. And it sort of makes flicking the knife around more fun, I think. But, you know, you get used to doing that and then just pulling back on this to disengage it and pushing the liner down. Not too much of a problem. Would I have just preferred locks that I can prefer when I have it on and off, and I can do that on my own? Yeah, I think locks is better than auto locks, but, you know, whatever. I'm not going to complain about an added safety measure. Play, well, as I said, I just tightened it up, and we've still got a little bit side to side and a little front to back. Nothing to worry about. I'm a snob when it comes to blade play, but I would prefer that it wasn't there. And it is, nothing to worry about, the lock isn't going to fail, but there you go. The handle, well, it's a well-designed handle. I really do like this handle. I think it shows a lot about how a coffin-shaped handle, without tactical materials like G10, FRN, whatever, and without texture, can really go a long way to creating a good knife. You know, there's a reason that we survived without G10 and FRN for so long, and this knife sort of shows that. It's between the full guard and a relatively long handle. It gives a secure-feeling knife. And I think that's really good, especially when you're trying to make an emergency tactical type folder. Giving a little space to grip down low, get some extra leverage, and keep your hand away from the knife that's coming at you. I think those are all good things. And then you've got the dual guard making up part of the handle as well. So I'm not faulting the knife for its lack of traction at all, because it is actually very ergonomic and the shape itself gives traction in hand. Perhaps you would have to grip it to know what I'm talking about, but it feels good in hand, and I'm never concerned that it's going to come out of my hand. So the material on the handles, the scales are a Zytel that's got an imitation wood pattern. As you guys can see, I think it looks pretty good. and the holes drilled through. Normally I don't like that. In this case I'm just fine with it. I don't mind it really either way. The liners underneath are 420J, really rust-resistant steel. I don't doubt that's why they used it. Now, moving on to ergos. Well, I think in the cutting test we found that the back flipper really messes with me. In the cutting test it was rubbing a lot. I tend to use the Filipino grip, which puts the flipper right here in the bottom of your thumb, and that really grates because there's the texturing on the flipper. And even just like this, with a more traditional grip, if you're pulling pretty hard, this will be digging into your thumb and into your hand. So that's sort of a bummer. I think they could have taken the texture off of this. But the handle shape is really great. The clip does interfere a little bit. It's raised relatively high. I don't know if I can show you guys that. And I don't think it needed to be, especially with it situated in this little hole. I think it's in there both tip up and tip down carry. On both sides, so I don't think that really needed to be raised as much as it was, but I don't think it's too much of an issue, and overall I think the handle was designed really well. I don't know if the handle was designed with the dual Carson flippers in mind, so that may be a consideration as well. The jimping, there's none on the handle. Got a little bit, like I said, texturing on the Carson flippers themselves, but with the good handle design and the full guard, I honestly don't feel like we need any, and I kind of wish, like I said, that there wasn't on what becomes the back part of the full guard. This Carson flipper, I think it could have gone bare, and it actually would have been better. The clip, decent. Like I said, it could protrude less, and I think it would be better, but the design overall, not bad, and honestly, I don't mind it being this shallow, that much knife protruding out of your pocket. With an emergency tactical folder, I think that's just fine. The presentation, well, there's some flash around these holes, the smaller holes in the handle, and they're only drilled through the liner, these holes on one side of the handle, which is weird. It doesn't look bad, it's just a point of curiosity for me. And like I said, AUS-4 is a rusty steel. I don't know if you guys can see, maybe compare this video to the video before it, the How We Make a Review video, but this steel has speckled considerably since then. I haven't been storing it with as much WD-40 on the blade as I would because I wanted to show off that it will speckle if you don't maintain it. It would normally have a much more lustrous look than this. It looks really dull now, and that's because of the rust speckling. And I can polish that up real easy with a Dremel and a buffing wheel. I haven't done it to show you guys this. It would typically, the whole knife, be more the color of the edge. If you guys can see, the edge is more shiny, and the blade is not. So that's sort of a ding to presentation, and like I said, I just wish it had a different steel in general. Quality and value I'll kind of do at the same time because they're the same story. Decent design, pretty good execution. I feel like it's marred a little bit by being too tactical. I think just with tanto and serrations, you're kind of depriving yourself of belly, and I'm not convinced that the tanto gives as much, rather the tanto with the sub point, as opposed to just a more smooth profile with a tanto grind. I don't know, though, that gives you much benefit as far as penetration and durability goes. So really, for both, I would have been much happier with the knife. Even if it was cost $10 more, if it was $50 on eBay with AUS-8 in it, I think it would have been a more serious contender. But it is what it is, and I'll keep moving on down into competition. Well, right here in this price range and this sort of usage, we have the medium Voyagers out of Cold Steel. We got the Tenacious and Resilience from Spyderco, at the Kershaw Skyline and the Buck Vantage folder. And what I think you really get from this knife is a more tactical look and sort of performance as well. The full guard, I think, will keep you a little bit safer as far as the knife coming out of your hand in particular, but also possibly preventing another knife from getting into your fingers as easily. So yeah, I think that it's sort of in a class all on its own in this price range for something that's specifically marketed as a tactical knife. I know the Voyagers, everything Cold Steel wise, is sort of marketed that way, but I think you'll see they don't have the wave function, which I think for a tactical knife is sort of indispensable, and they don't have as much of a guard, as much protection. So I think it is really in a category more all its own, and because of that, as far as pass-fail, I gave it a tentative pass. Like I said, it makes the best of a bad situation. $40 for a tactical knife is a bad place to be. $40 for a folding tactical knife, that's a really almost hilariously bad place to be. If you were looking for a knife that you were actually thinking you might have to defend your life with, I'm hoping that you'd be looking at larger fixed blades, more designed to protect your hand, create more distance, all those good things. And if you really wanted to have a folding tactical knife, if you're more of a civilian role looking for something that you can conceal more easily, I hope that you would be going for something larger and more expensive. better steel, better quality throughout. Just something that you would bet your life on. I would be hoping that you'd be wanting to invest a little bit more money in. But as far as a $40 folding tactical knife goes, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot better than this. Like I said, I wish it was a little bit more expensive with a different steel, and I could personally go for it more as a unserrated knife as a Tonto, or an unserrated or serrated version with a clip or a drop point. I could go for any of those things, but those are more preference oriented, and I think most people will find that this is a pretty cool knife. Rust speckling aside and the couple of gripes that I've had, I think the dual Carson flippers with the wave feature is a good sacrifice to make. I think without the jimping it would be a little bit better, and I don't think you're going to have a problem actuating it without the jimping. So overall, tentative pass-fail. As I said, I don't see a whole lot of people that are looking for the $40 knife that's going to go to war with them, but if for some reason you were, I suppose this would be it. Or if you're just looking for a cool collection piece that would make a good fighting knife, if you're looking at stowing it in a certain room in your house, something like that, just carrying it with you on a day-to-day basis, and you're looking in this price range. Or if you just want a cool collection piece, you're interested in this line of knives out of CRKT, and you're looking at one that supports our troops. I think all of those are great reasons to buy this knife. I just don't think it's a great knife as far as the big knife EDC folder goes. I think you're going to get better performance out of the knives mentioned below, even the Voyagers, but especially the Resilience Skyline Buck Vantage. So yeah, tentative pass fail, and I'll do stats real quick and we can be done. Overall length 9.25, blade length 3.875, handle length 5.375, and blade thickness 0.14, which is relatively thick. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review, maybe clarified what I think this knife is good at, what it's more bad at, and why I feel that way. I hope this has been a good complement to the How We Make a Review video. Hope you see the correlation between this and that. But yeah, there you guys go. Hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.